So hello shedders and welcome back to the shed. Okay, for this particular episode what I wanted to have a look at is contrast paints. Now I didn't get into the whole contrast paints when they first released, and I thought, you know, what better time to bite the bullet than now, especially when I got a raft of stuff in here that needs painting. It's time for me to look at other ways to try and get my painting done, but in a more, efficient manner. What I'm going to do is I bought a basic contrast paint set with a couple of extra ones thrown in, and what I'm going to do is paint these 4 Ork Kommandos for 40k and see where it gets us, and then I'll work around some kind of plan around that. I also at some point want to get my spray on, because I ordered one of these off Amazon, and I've yet to have a go of it. I think the idea is it turns your spray can, your rattle can, into more of a efficient way of getting that onto models. So we'll see how that goes, and I'm hoping the process between the rattle can handle and the way contrast is done to start with and Slapchop, at least that way I can hopefully speed things up a bit. Yeah, but anyway, let's get on to these. So the idea is, as I start putting the contrast paint onto these guys, it should naturally flow with the white areas showing through the colour itself. And that's my theory anyway. I've watched enough videos, so it shouldn't be too bad. I did have a little go when I painted Mogrog on a couple of little areas, so I have got high hopes, but we'll see. Now, I've had a wee bit of a panic today. With the close snap we've been having in the UK, I came into the shed and things had frozen, so I was a bit concerned. It's the first chance I've had to check my paints, and as you can see, I don't know if you can hear that, thankfully the paints are not frozen. Probably not far off, but thankfully the paints are good. I've always had the little oil heater in here, but with that cold snap, like I said, it's made the paints a bit concerned about them, but they seem to be all right. Yeah, the shaking, they feel liquid, so they're obviously not solid in there. I'll try a few and just make sure. But ultimately, I can't insulate every part of the shed. I can do the walls and things, but things like the door with glass, the windows, I think even the cupboards and the shelving and the stuff that's in front of the walls is potentially adding to that area as well. So I don't know, maybe it's enough, but I think I'll just have to make sure I come up here and do a bit of heating up every now and then, or maybe during the winter having to put the paints away into some kind of insulated box perhaps. Yeah, but there we go. I was mainly concerned about my contrast paints, because obviously that's what I'm using for these next lot in this video. So, but we're all right. So obviously this is not the hobby shed. I'm away for a few days with work, and I'm in this accommodation which is kind of all right. It's not that warm, but you know, we work with what we've got. So what I've done is I've brought the Kommandos with me, and we're going to just make a start on getting on some of this contrast paint and see how it looks. What I might do to start with is just do one and then get the colours as I want them. I'm looking for maybe an urban feel with some kind of element of kind of orky camo on there, but we'll see how we go. I'll get one done and then I'll probably then spread it into the rest of the into the squad. In total I have 20 Ork Kommandos to push through, so I'll start with one, I'll build to 4, and then I'll work on the rest of them. Alright, let's get into it. Contrast Gut Ripper. So I'm pretty happy at this stage. I quite like what contrast paints can do. So what I've done is I've done the basic colours and I've just gone over it with a bit of Agrag Surf Shade, which I think kind of muted down the orc flesh for me a bit, and yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. I've already started the ball rolling on a couple of the others, but yeah, no, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that, and I think that's quite a nice effect. Now to replicate it across the others. Yeah, pleased with that. Contrast. Get yourself some. Now, it's freezing in here. I won't lie. I think I'm gonna have to make a point of coming up and turning everything on so the heating's nice and, I won't say toasty, but at least warmer. I'm trying to warm my fingers up, ready to start getting into these. This project of Slapchop Ork Kommandos, it's taken me far too long, but a quick update. I've managed to get most of the base coats on. I've got a couple more to do in the name of maybe a splash of yellow contrast, and then the obligatory lead belcher to go over some of the weapon parts. My commando is going to be a bit more of a sneaky aspect to it, and all the weapons will be sort of black painted with just an edge of sort of gunmetal around some of the edges, just to kind of give it that edge of, you know, the fact that they are quite sneaky beaky. As a side, I did start slapping a bit of contrast on Snick Rot as well, which is, I'm liking where this is going. So most of the base coats are on, and I think what I'm going to do next, contrast for me is not quite punching as in the way that I've done it, and you know, it's been a bit of a learning game. So once I'm done with finishing off the base coating, and then I'm going to start on quite a bit of edge highlighting, just to try and make it pop and punch a little bit more. For the flesh tones on the orcs, I used what's it called? Gut Ripper Flesh. I'm a bit old school with my orcs, and I believe that, like, the bigger the orc is, the darker they need to be. You know, like you think of your black orcs and, you know, that kind of ethos and theory. So I want to make my bigger orcs a bit more dark and the smaller orcs a lot more moot greeny. So you're going from, like, let me have a look. I mean, the clue is in the name, really. Warboss green, moot green, and you've got the difference in those two colours. You know, this should be your bigger orcs, this should be your smaller orcs, or your smaller greenskin. That's where I'm kind of at with the old kind of greenskins, and that's the way I personally like to do it. So what we're going to do tonight is finish off the base coating, get some edge highlighting down, and then hopefully we should be ready to go onto the bases and then they're complete. Why is it taking me so long? I've had a bit of a life upheaval in that we got a puppy just before the Christmas break. So, you know, he's been a little whirlwind, but we're quite happy with that. So obviously, you know, life is always going to take its turn, and my ethos for doing this whole channel was purely to get people to be tackling the plastic even when you've got a busy lifestyle, and that's me entirely, and that's why I do this in a shed, because, you know, my life is busy enough, you know, without taking over the rest of the house, which is busy itself. Anyway, enough chat bagging. I'm going to get into these. Okay, let's go. Now, it's actually been quite difficult to be getting up to the shed in the last couple of weeks with all the rain that we've had. It's actually waterlogged my garden quite extensively, so I've often found it quite difficult to actually get up here with the cameras and stuff. Just getting it across the garden just for squelching for squelch's sake, you know. Slowly getting through these, I'm still applying bolt gun, because I think once you get into it you realise just how many metal surface orks have. Yeah. My bolt gun metal is still quite dark, and I think with a non-oil wash or a Agrax Earth shade wash, it will maintain its sort of darkness to it, but still look quite, have that kind of metal effect to it. And if you're like me and you've never touched contrast paints before, I mean, why did I even touch contrast paints before? I think initially I didn't want the added expense of investing essentially in another painting technique when I was already quite happy with what I was doing to start with. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm no pro painter. I class myself as quite an average painter, considering the amount of time I have been painting. I first got into Games Workshop, I think, when I was 12, and I'm now 46. So I think that says, you know, just how long I've been about the hobby. Now you might say, well, you should be amazing at painting. I did have a long break in joining the military. I didn't come back to the hobby really until later on in my career. You know, through everything, taking out, you know, family, operational commitments. That said, I used to buy White Dwarf quite a lot and would keep a check on what the hobby was doing and where it was at and what was being produced. And sometimes on leave I'd go and buy more stuff, and that would be held in my mum's loft or attic, if you're not from the UK. Yeah. What I will say is, though, what I've liked about contrast, it does seem very quick to get colours down, and that's one thing I have liked. I think it's one of them things, like all things, you've got to get used to a new technique. But yeah, I've enjoyed the process so far, and they do look quite cool, to be honest. I think once the bolt comes in, we're getting some of the edge highlighting done, it'll be more on its way, I think. With the breacher, I don't know what colour to do his actual breaching, so I might come back to this one once I've got a bit more inspiration, let's say. Come back to it. I mean, there's some great examples of these Ork Kommandos out there, and I did see one, I thought, yeah, mine need a bit more colour, I think, because I've gone for a very urban ops kind of look to him. But then most of my scenery is kind of urban style, urban feel to it, so it kind of blends in with what I've got. What I will say is, like I said though, if you're yet to try some contrast, give it a whirl. Do like what I did, wait for the next set to come out that's a collection together, and buy a selection of colours, and then just buy a couple of extra that you think you might need for a specific project and try them out. This is where these Ork Kommandos are perfect for, because I've got another 10 to do yet, because I end up getting 2 boxes of this stuff. So the breach has actually got a few base colours that I've missed anyway, so I'll have to come back to this one. Yep. Enough for now, enough for now. That guy I'm pretty much happy with. I think the Ork Kommando with the machine gun is probably one of my favourites. I'll just get a shot of that actually. So you know which one I'm on about. Yeah, this Ork with a machine gun. I love that he actually looks like, you know, your old school commando with the woolly hat. Any commandos out there you can see, I'm sure that hat's got a name, but it's not something I know of. Head over, that's it. Head over. Oh, 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 and a drop. Yeah, and I think we've got one more base colour, which is Contrast Imperial Fist. We'll get that on there. And then hopefully we can call it there and get onto the edge highlighting. With the bases, all that was left to do was a bit of acrylic and earth, and what I did was I quickly put it across the bases and I used a hairdryer on some of them to speed up the process. Quick dry brush, and that was that then done to bed, put to bed. If you're still here with us at the end, thank you very much for watching. I tried something new on this one, which was paint with mic. And what I like to think of is when I'm painting, I often have YouTube on in the background with other painters talking through what they're doing, and I find it quite inspiring, but I also find it gives me something to listen whilst I'm painting myself, and it keeps the, you know, the process going. So it's kind of where I was going with these videos. You know, it's about inspiring others to get into painting and keep going, you know. Although it was only like 12 models in total, it took me about 8 weeks to get this done, and what I'm trying to say is I'm a busy guy with a busy lifestyle, and if I can still, you know, make time to paint, then I'm sure you can as well, amidst everything, whether it's just in a shed or you've actually got something a bit more bespoke, or even if it's just your kitchen table. Get your stuff out, get some colours down on some models, and I think you'll feel better for doing it. I certainly feel better for getting this done, and if you're still watching at this point, thanks very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really does help the algorithm. But anyway, here's the final products.